Hey, Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Kwakadash, the honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of great mystery rule well. This is the National DC camp with another short lesson to edify the hopeful elect, doing the work of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, on the highways and byways in sincerity and truth. And, since Russia already went ahead and signed their legislation, the so-called agreement to get away from the so-called INF treaty over there in their country, it's become a big news, that all these so-called journalists have to cover. So they got a video here from Russia Today, talks about that aspect of prophecy, and it just lets you know, man, everything is going according to the Most High's plans. Even though the information they'll give you is not complete, you know that the scriptures is right on point.
The Cold War era Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty has been in limbo. Now, this has been since the U.S. threatened to pull out of the agreement in February, but today marks another step. I don't know if it's necessarily a good.
Yep. So I get a quick precept right there. So this is going to be from the book of Proverbs. All right, from the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 1. All right, it says, the preparations of the heart in man and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. All right, so that's one thing people think, that they're in charge, to run the show, but the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah is putting in the heart of these elites, man, to stir up tension among themselves because they want to dominate. All right, so all these agreements and treaties that they want to make, it's not going to stand because the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah is not with them coming together. The Most High always sowed that seed of discord among these Edomites. So the West is going to go against the East. The Eastern Bloc, Russia and the allies, and you got America and the allies. We have to butt head in this final war, the War of the Nations, World War III.
We're going to find out because this is where Moscow has taken action, signing legislation that suspends the country's participation. RT Sarah Montez de Oca joins me with the details. Sarah, this is very scary stuff. Anytime you mention the word nuclear disarmament, anything that has to do with nuclear bombs, definitely a serious issue.
Yeah, so you can see what's what's on the screen right there behind the lady. So you have those so-called nuclear missiles. Those missiles behind, they have the radar, they have the technician in the background, performing some maintenance and all that stuff. So it's crazy, man. It's about to get ugly, for Esau. In fact, for the whole earth, because the Lord talks about the whole earth shall reel to and full like a drunkard. That the fire is going to be that is not blown. So it's going to be crazy in these last days, man.
We're talking about, but does this mean a nuclear bomb is being built right now as we speak?
Well, not necessarily, Scotty. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a bill suspending Russia's participation in the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Now, President Trump announced he planned to exit the pact last October, but the U.S. began accusing Russia of...
So you see there, it says nuclear forces. All right. So, all this nuclear technology that the Lord Shema Shai have given to the Smith, the scientists, nuclear scientists of these different nations, it's become a topic of interest for the elites because they want to dominate. They want to have the leverage. So they're pushing all kinds of sanctions. They're trying to make all types of deals come to pass. But it's not going as well. That's why there's tension among them.
Breaking the INF Treaty since 2014. Peter Kuznick spoke to RT earlier today and said this doesn't come as a surprise.
Back in March, Putin said that if the U.S. withdrew, then Russia will withdraw also. He signed a decree at that point. Last week, the Russian Senate voted 148-0 to uphold that decree. And now that's what Putin just signed into law. So we
And that's an aspect of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, that Lord Shema Shah is going to put a hook, all right, into the jaw of the bear, and turn it around. So it's going to be messed up, man, because, say animals usually have a mind of their own, but in this case, the Lord Shema Shah will have to steer Russia in a different direction that he wants them to go. And the same thing applies for America too. All right.
knew this was coming.
The U.S. suspended its liabilities under the pivotal nuclear arms deal in February of this year, and Trump threatened to quit the treaty and gave Russia 6 months to return to compliance of that agreement. But Russia has denied any breaches. But later they followed suit and accused the U.S. of breaking the accord, a claim Washington has rejected. The U.S. claims that Russia has long-range ground-based cruise missile systems, the 9M729, which they say don't abide to the limited range permitted under the treaty. And earlier this year, Russia presented evidence contrary to the U.S. claim that the missile violates terms under the INF. Americans had been invited to the event but didn't show up. The INF treaty...
Yep, so by them not showing up doesn't change anything. Whether they showed up or not, it's all this set in stone. The conflict is real and it's gonna happen, man. It's gonna be so devastating for people that live upon the face of the earth when they see this nuclear, missiles going from one end of the earth to the other. And then if you go and look at, if you read, Isaiah chapter 13, all right, Isaiah chapter 13, and you look at from verse 3 to verse 5, it says, I have commanded my sanctified ones, all right, those angels, I have also called my mighty ones from my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness, all right. And then it says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts, all right. And how about Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Wakadash? That's about what? Muster the host to the battle. All right. So it's gonna be crazy, man. So and then look at verse 5. It says, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. So these nuclear weapons, man, they have different ranges. All right. So the one you saw on the screen has a different range. That's one point of contention between the United States of America and Russia. And then you have the ICBMs. All right. So different missiles have different different ranges. That's why you call the highest you could have is the intercontinental ballistic missiles. All right, from one continent to the other. And they say according to the agreement, the max range about 5,000 kilometers, but it's going to be more than that. All right. So and then you look at verse 4 talks about the multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. All right. So and then you keep watching the video. Old man that will come up on the screen.
Treaty signed in 1987 was a cornerstone to global security and prohibits the production of testing of ground-launched cruise missiles with a range of 300 to 3,400 miles. Now, the agreement forced both countries to destroy thousands of missiles at the...
I may have misspoke. Well, 5,000 miles seems like a lot, but it's not a lot, man. This nuclear missile will go beyond that, all right? So, it's no joke, man. It's no joke that these missiles are, are very precise, all right? So, you can see, that's former President Reagan and Gorbachev way back then, in the 80s, So, it's all spiritual, man. Folks were having like a sigh of relief that, oh, man, they are glad, like, oh, well, hoping that the words of the Lord weren't true back then, But then, the Lord had to let them know that, well, not so fast. The Holy Scriptures have to be fulfilled. So people are nervous, man. They're upset. That's why they're building bunkers. They're stocking up on ammo and food and all the security, you know, provisions, to stay safe in these last days. All right. So it's gonna be hilarious, man. To see folks' reaction when they hear that World War III of so-called started officially. A lot of folks are gonna be disappointed, man.
Time. This also comes at a time when another arms deal between the U.S. and Russia is about to expire.
The danger is that there's one piece left of the arms control architecture, and that's the New START Treaty, and that expires in February of 2021. And if that is withdrawn, if that fails, it's not renewed, then we're going to be in a full-blown arms race, 1980 style.
Yeah, that's not what's holding them back, man. It's the words of the Lord. The commandments of the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shah, is one that's holding them back for this moment, all right? It's not the so-called agreements they put on paper, all right? Because the Most High controls these people's minds, all right? So, old man will tell you that
there are about 7,000 nuclear weapons in the world.
you see about 7,000 nuclear weapons in the world. Yeah, the Holy Scripture talks about the different thing, man. When it goes straight to the point, in the book of Revelation, chapter 9, and then you look at from verse 16 to verse 19. All right, it says, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. All right, that's 200 million. All right, so there's no way you're gonna get 7,000 from this, man. If it's 200,000 warhead, there's no way, man. You could have that from 7,000 nuclear missiles, nuclear arms on the face of the earth, man. So it just lets you know Esau's not giving you the whole truth. All right. So there's no way you're gonna get 200 million from 7,000, even 70,000. It's gotta be way more than that he's talking about. All right. So don't believe what Esau tells you as per stats.
Back in the 1980s, there were close to 70,000 nuclear weapons in the world.
That's what's on paper. But in reality, you're going to have more than that, man. Because the scripture tells you, man. It tells you how much is there, and how much is going to be.
And it doesn't take very many of these to create nuclear winter.
The Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, known as the New START, was designed to focus on the long-range nuclear weapons that pose the greatest threat to both the U.S. and Russia. Now, this agreement expires in February of 2021. At the G20 summit just last week, President Putin said the two sides would begin talks, but doesn't expect some quick progress.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard to go from 7,000 to 200 million in about 2 years, man. So they already ramped up, man. They're fully stocked. They're fully loaded. All that stuff they have on paper is all for, public digestion. I don't really believe exactly what they say in the news. You just, hear what they say, and you take it to the ultimate tester, which is the Holy Scriptures, to see what's going on, man. That's how you validate what's happening around you, if they're telling the truth or if they're lying. It's through the spirit of, of Yahweh Shema Shai that, you could witness, taking place in the Holy Scriptures. So all what they say, all these summits, it's not going to give you all the information you need. You got to go with the spirit of Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. And then you look at the book of Joel, chapter 2. If you read from verse 1 to verse 10, it's going to tell you something different, man. All right, it says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of all of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. All right. So it said a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there had not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So World War III is going to be the last war, man, that Esau's going to fight, you know, and it's going to be so devastating upon the face of the earth. So verse 3 says, a fire devoured before them, and behind them a flame devoured, a flame burned it. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, all right, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. All right. And then you keep on reading down. It says, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoured the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. So that's the nuclear missiles for you, man. You know, that's exactly what's going to happen in these last days, you know, and then listen more.
Scotty, we're living in a time when really there's more power in quantity over or quality over quantity when it comes to these nuclear weapons. But with negotiations comes a lot of dialogue, and there's a huge focus on these arms control issues, not just with Russia, but even the recent withdrawal from the United States with the Iran deal. But for now, all we can do is hope that these countries are ready to come together for dialogue before it gets any worse.
Conversation.
Yeah, come to a dialogue before this matter gets any worse. So it's gonna get worse, man. You know, you can't, change and hope for something different when the Lord Abba Shema Shai has already decreed that all these agreements is not going to be worth the paper it's written on. All right. So the tension is real.
Piece left of the arms control architecture, and that's the New START Treaty, and that expires in February of 2021. And if that is withdrawn, if that fails and it's not renewed, then we're going to be in a full-blown arms race, 1980 style. You know, now there are about 7,000 nuclear weapons in the world. Back in the 1980s, there were close to 70,000 nuclear weapons in the world.
Yep. So that's a different story Esau's telling. All right. So you just gotta be, in tune with the Spirit of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai to know exactly what Esau is trying to put out there. All right, because if you keep on relying on Esau's news to give you your information, you're gonna find yourself behind the curve. All right. So just to continue in Revelations chapter 9, look at verse 16. All right. So it says in verse 17, all right, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. All right, so that's where the power of these nuclear missiles is, man. You know, in the head, the nuclear warheads. All right. And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. All right. So it says, by these three was the third part of men killed by fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which was issued out of their mouths. All right. So that's the worst type of death one could ever experience. This nuclear radiation, just like they had a series of Chernobyl. Akim should watch that. I haven't even watched it yet, but I believe that from what I've seen and heard, the reviews are good. All right, so it's gonna be beautiful, man. That you see the words of the Lord Abba Shema Shai come to pass. So what Esau says, only about 7,000 nuclear weapons we have on the face of the earth. That's not true. There's more.
And now there are about 7,000 nuclear weapons in the world.
Nah, so that's not true. That's not true. So that's the point there. I came. So Kahalal Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Kakadash, double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Grimstone doing real well. And the Akim, paying attention to prophecy. The Spirit of the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua keeps you on your P's and Q's, man. It's tough, but you gotta take it. You gotta accept the responsibility of preaching the gospel. Pray the Lord Yahweh Shai, provides you with salvation in these last days. Shalom.